We're back with Marie Agioritis, and we're talking about fentanyl and being a parent and grandparent in today's age. Marie, talk a little bit about that experience that you've enlightened us about, first of all, and tell us what's out there now.
Well, there is a lot to say, but I'll try to be succinct. When it comes to fentanyl, why fentanyl ended up into our communities. Fentanyl is a very, very inexpensive product that is manufactured in Asia. Well, we have pharmaceutical grade fentanyl that is a controlled substance and legal in Canada under very controlled conditions. However, we don't have research grade fentanyl in our country. It wasn't listed as a Schedule 1 product. That meant that you couldn't just deliver it to your door, but you could up until September of this year. That changed. It was moved to a Schedule 1. So fentanyl, research grade, and its precursors can no longer be shipped in from China legally, but they could up until September of this year. So what would happen is you could order $10,000 worth of fentanyl to your door, and I can't even remember, Randy, what the dollar value, but it was in like close to $1 million in street value you could turn that into. It's also legal in our country to possess a pill press. Why you'd need a pill press, I don't know. But nobody should be holding a pill press unless they are a sanctioned manufacturer of pills from a government perspective. So fentanyl came in, and as little as 2 grains of salt of fentanyl is enough to kill you. And so they put this chocolate chip cookie analogy. So these pills that were being produced to look like OxyContin, they were green. And they'd even have the 80 stamp that an OxyContin 80 had on it. They were actually manufactured in clandestine labs in Canada and distributed to this community of people using and abusing. Even kids in high school are still using them, know they're using it. And that pill itself, though, like a chocolate chip cookie that you go to bake, those cookies are not evenly distributed, or those chocolate chips. And that's the same with the fentanyl. So in the case of my son, the one half of the pill had some, but the predominant amount of fentanyl, because he still had it in it and he ended up dying as a result. That's one of the dangers of fentanyl. The second is because it is so enticing, the high, they're finding that distributors of the products are putting it in cocaine. So street cocaine is now showing up with fentanyl in it.
Yeah.
Same thing. We're seeing recreational users at a weak moment even, who normally wouldn't use cocaine, dying. We had a mom and dad in BC die a few months back. Young, beautiful couple, started their life, 1 child. Anniversary party. Mom and dad died that night. So we're seeing it in that. It's actually showing up in marijuana. And the reason why they put it in there is because your product is going to be better than anybody's. So fentanyl is here to stay right now. There's nothing, we can make it illegal, we can search and search and search, but as long as it's a product that creates cash and can be diversified into, from a drug dealer, as an opportunity, they're not going anywhere. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, drugs. So,
Tell us a little bit about what's happening on the political side of things.
Politically, our federal health minister is extremely interested in trying to make some change because we're dropping like flies right now in this country from it. And it isn't just the guys on Vancouver's Lower East Side. As I said, it's moms and dads and high school professionals and or sports professionals and university graduates. So a couple things. Number one, there was a bill that was presented in the Senate last spring to stop the fentanyl from China to come in. And we can't just say stop it. There has to be some kind of movement through the House of Commons to make that happen. And it did. The Senate passed it resoundingly to say, no, research-grade fentanyl is not allowed in our country unless you have a license to hold it. So it's now a controlled substance, and if you get caught with it, you'll go to jail. Then the other side of it was a Good Samaritan Overdose Protection Act. This was a bill presented by an MP out of BC. And it said that if you are with somebody who is overdosing and you call 911 to save their lives and the police come and you're holding some form of drugs, they won't charge you. And why is that important? Because it probably would have saved my son's life. It could have. My own son, who's the addict, he's told stories, somebody overdosing, they take him out, they put him in their vehicle, slump him over the wheel, grab someone else's phone, call 911 and take off. They could be doing chest compressions and keeping that kid going. But as an addict, you don't want to go to jail because then you're going to start to withdraw and then you're done. So we really need that. Anyhow, that particular bill yesterday went to the House of Commons for its third reading and it was passed unanimously, and that is outstanding. And then it now goes to the Senate to be made law. One more thing, but it's on the lines of harm reduction. And before I get there, I guess we should talk about our own community and what are we doing in Saskatchewan to help. Drugs are a really sensitive subject, and in the school systems they are, and our curriculums are already really packed. I've tried to get the attention of the school systems, and they're reluctant to talk about it. And I don't know if it's the fear that parents don't want to hear about it because they think it's going to make their kids want to do drugs. I'm not really sure. But we do need to change it up, and we need to start talking to our kids earlier in the schools. I'm not in a position to create what that would look like academically, sensitively, because I'm not a psychologist, but I know there's people out there, and there are packages already made that can be. So the school systems do need to start addressing it. Grade 5, grade 8, grade 10. If we're waiting until grade 10, the kids who are susceptible, they're already done. Healthcare. We have some wonderfully effective people in healthcare, but they're putting out fires with buckets. We don't teach anything in our medical school or any of our medical schools across Canada about addiction and addicts. Most doctors, and there might be a little bit to say not taught, they might get an hour or two on it, but it's not what they need to know. Desperate parents take their kid to emergency because they're in some psychotic state, and there's not protocols to say, what are we going to do? Number one, your kid is high. There's no room in a psychological establishment to put you in, like the Dubé Center, and we just don't own it in Saskatchewan. This is across the country.
So with yesterday being early November, with some of the changes at the law, the legal level, what are parents and in particular your group doing?
You know, a lot of parents that have dealt with this tragedy are starting to get involved nationally, and we're starting to advocate. We're getting hold of our MLAs, we're getting hold of the Senate, and we're asking for change. There's an organization that is grassroots that myself and a number of other mothers from across Western Canada have started, and it's called Mums Stop the Harm, crammed together. We have a web page and we have a Facebook page. And what we do is post all the latest information on these drugs that are happening in the community. We send letters out to ask for change. We advocate for harm reduction, which is everything from methadone and Suboxone, which are drugs that can help kids come off opiates, to larger amounts of treatment beds in communities. We look at education in the home and the school systems, up to the provincial level to the federal level. One of our mums is traveling with the Premier of BC to meet with Jane Philpott, the health minister, in the next few weeks to talk about some of Canada's strategies to reduce the impact and make some changes that are going to change it for our kids. Yeah.
What is happening at the local level then in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan as a whole?
Well, not without some effort. What we've seen is Narcan is now available. Now, Narcan is a drug that if you do have somebody in your family who's an opiate addict, whether they're in recovery or not, everyone should have a Narcan kit. It's a kit. If you call the Mayfair Pharmacy on 33rd, they'll tell you how to get hold of it. You need a little tutorial on how to use it. Family members can, and the addict themselves can get hold of these kits. It just is an injection that actually it blocks the opioid immediately in your head, brings the person in overdose from come out of it, and then you have about a half hour in case they go back into overdose, because they can, depending on the amount of drug they've consumed. It gives you enough time to get them to a safe medical facility and keep them alive. That's available in Saskatoon. If you look on Mom Stop the Harm, I'm going to have a list of where else in Saskatchewan it's available. I think you can get it in PA now, but there was some limitations that we do really need to push the government for to get that more accessible. Treatment beds. The money just isn't there for more treatment. It's a 3 to 4 month wait in Saskatchewan for paid treatment. Other than that, you're looking at a minimum of 6 weeks treatment for $15,000, and opioid addicts really take 3 months. So there's a lot of work yet to do, and the education is the biggest part. We have the addicts already addicted, we have the kids who aren't there, and we need to do something about this, but more importantly, we need to stop kids from foolishly trying these drugs. We need to get parents talking about them at home.
Is there any last words for parents or grandparents that are maybe entrusted as guardians for their children that they should watch for?
If you suspect your kids are doing drugs, drug test them. Don't feel bad because your kid says, you don't trust me. No, I don't. You know what? Under my roof, these are my rules. Now, you can't get hold of a drug test in a pharmacy in Saskatchewan or Canada yet because of some federal regulations, but Mom Stop the Harm's working on that too. You can go to some of the shops on Broadway. There is one called Bob's, and they do sell paraphernalia for marijuana, but they do sell drug tests too. And you can go to canadadrugtests.ca and order them online. We're working real hard to try to get them into our pharmacies so that a parent does have that opportunity when the mood strikes you. If you wait a few days, often the kid convinces you that they weren't using. But
I appreciate you making time for us today, Marie. I really want to thank you from the bottom of our heart, and maybe someone watching today will be saved as a result of your efforts.
My pleasure, and I hope so too.
We'll be right back.